SLT Mobitel Home Broadband සමගින් non-stop ගමනකට data බෝවන්. SLT Mobitel Home Broadband සමගින් non-stop ගමනකට data බෝවන්.
දසනකාන්තී චූර්ණය සහිත ලීවර් ආයුෂ් දන්තාලේපය දත්වල ඇති ප්‍රශ්න 10ක් වළකයි.
Tonight, diversified support. India emphasized that it will continue to support Sri Lanka in other fronts such as investment, even though it will no longer provide financial aid to the country. Invitation. President Ranil Wickremesinghe invites the diaspora in the UK to diversify its funding to other parts of the country. Positive strides. Sri Lanka earns $900 million in the first 8 months of 2022 from the tourism sector amid crisis in the past. Broadening avenues. State Minister of Finance announces plans to introduce new tax system for cigarettes and alcohol as means of roping in more income to the government. All this and much more coming up tonight on First at 9. This Tuesday, the 20th of September 2022.
වින්දියර මිලිලීටර් 100 ස්මාර්ට් පැක් එක රුපියල් 85ට දැන් වෙළඳ පොලේ.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to AdaDerana 24's English News. I'm Andrew Bernard. Now, President Ranil Wickremesinghe called on the diaspora in the UK to take advantage of the new investment opportunities created in Sri Lanka, highlighting that investments should not only be made in the north but also in the south of the island. During a meeting with the Sri Lankan diaspora in his visit to the UK, President Wickremesinghe said the Sri Lankan government is working on a project called the Diaspora Office Project, which will be under the President's office, adding that they will want people of every ethnicity in the north to get involved.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is in the United Kingdom to attend the funeral ceremony of Queen Elizabeth II, met with the Sri Lankan diaspora in Britain last evening. According to the President's media division, many Sri Lankan business persons, investors and professionals living in Britain attended the meeting organised by the Sri Lankan High Commission in Britain.
The question on land in the north, the question which you started of missing persons and the reparation due to them, this must be got out of the way and look at some of the basic issues of devolution. What is happening is that 7 chief ministers outside north and east and the leaders of opposition gave a set of proposals in 2018 when we are revising the constitution. The members, chief ministers from the north and east agreed with it. So we can go ahead. More than that, we are having a northern development plan. You who are here have made a success of your state. 500,000 people of Sri Lankan origin identifying themselves as first generation or second generation. It's called the Diaspora Office Project, but some people want it to be called, and I think I agree with them, it's for the people of Sri Lankan origin. So we are working on that. The Foreign Ministry will initially be under the President's office, but it will then be handled by the Foreign Minister, another one, because Foreign Ministry will after some time take over international trade. But we want this office to succeed. We want everyone to get involved. Not only in the north, they can also invest in the south. Because some of you might have villagers in the south or the east which would like to get. You have no problem. Throughout the world we dance there. See how you can help Sri Lanka.
Now, President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who visited London to attend the funeral of late Queen Elizabeth II, met King Charles III today. According to the President's media division, President Wickremesinghe, who participated in the event, was captured in a photograph having a cordial conversation with King Charles III. First Lady Professor Maitri Wickremesinghe also participated in the funeral of Queen Elizabeth. Now, in the meantime, India today emphasized that even though the country does not plan to provide any more financial aid to the country, it will continue to support the country in other aspects. The Indian High Commission made these remarks today in light of media reports regarding India's decision to no longer provide funds to Sri Lanka, as it has provided close to $4 billion worth of assistance in the past. The Indian High Commission stated that their aid would in particular be given through the promotion of long-term investments from India in key economic sectors in Sri Lanka for its early economic recovery and growth. The Indian High Commission in Colombo today responded to media reports regarding their comments made to Reuters news agency on the country not planning to provide fresh financial support to Sri Lanka. Taking to Twitter, the High Commission emphasized that it had extended bilateral assistance amounting close to $4 billion this year for ameliorating the difficulties faced by the people of Sri Lanka. It added that India had also advocated through other bilateral and multilateral partners supporting Sri Lanka expeditiously in its current economic difficulties. Meanwhile, the Indian High Commission noted that the conclusion of a staff-level agreement between IMF and the government of Sri Lanka and added that its further approval within IMF is contingent upon inter alia on Sri Lanka's debt sustainability. As such, the High Commission added that it had continued to be supportive of Sri Lanka in all possible ways and that Sri Lankans also continue to avail of scholarships for higher education and skills training in premier Indian institutions. They say these aspects of their close and long-standing cooperation with Sri Lanka also contributes to the efforts of addressing Sri Lanka's current economic crisis. Now, parliamentarian Dallas Alaperumus said they will not support the proposal on the establishment of a national council, citing that only members of recognized political parties representing parliament are allowed to be included. During the debate on the resolution to constitute the national council, JVP-led Jatika Jana Balawege too expressed their objection to the proposal, citing it lacks honesty. However, Samagi Jana Balawege parliamentarian Nalin Bandara said their party will support the government's proposal. The parliament met today for the debate on the resolution to constitute the National Council. The National Council will consist of the Speaker of Parliament as the chairperson, the Prime Minister, the Leader of the House of Parliament, the Leader of the Opposition, the Chief Government Whip, and not more than 35 members of Parliament representing the 9th Parliament from recognized political parties in the country as determined by their leaders.
ආර්ථික ස්ථායීකරණයට අදාළ කෙටි හා මධ්‍යකාලීන පොදු අවම වැඩසටහන් සම්බන්ධයෙන් එකඟතාවයන් නැගති කර ගැනීමටද ඒ වගේම මේ අනු අමාත්‍ය මණ්ඩලයේ අමාත්‍යවරයා ජාතික සභාව විශේෂ කාරක සභාවල සභාපතිවරුන් හා යොමුන් සංවිධානවල නිරීක්ෂකයන්ද කැඳවා විශේෂ රැස්වීම් පැවැත්වීමට සුවිශේෂ අවස්ථාවකට මේ ජාතික සභාව පරිවර්තනය වීමට හැකියාව තිබෙනවා. ජාතික සභාව ඇති කිරීමේ යෝජනාව මා කියන්න ඕනේ මොහොම නියතමානීවම ප්‍රතිපක්ෂයෙන් ඉදිරිපත් වෙච්ච යෝජනාවක්.
විපක්ෂය ඇතුලේ සාකච්ඡා වෙමින් තිබුණ ජාතික සභාවත් එහි අරමුණක්. දැන් යෝජනා කරලා තිබෙන ජාතික සභාවත් එහි අරමුණක් ගත්තාම හාත්පසින්ම පරස්පරයි. ආණ්ඩුව මෙම යෝජනාව ඇතුලේ අවංකභාවයක් නැහැ, යථාර්ථවාදීත් නැහැ දැන් මේ. ඒ නිසා එවැනි යෝජනාවක් වෙනුවෙන් මා හිතන්නේ අපි සහාය දීමෙන් හෝ එවැනි සභාවකට සම්බන්ධ වීමෙන් කිසි පළක් නැහැ.
මේ යෝජනාවේ ඔබතුමා කියනවා පාර්ලිමේන්තුව නියෝජනය කරනු ලබන ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ පිළිගත් දේශපාලන පක්ෂවලින් එන මේ ස්වාධීන වෙච්ච කණ්ඩායම් මගහැරීම සඳහා බොහොම නිර්වත් කුමන්ත්‍රණයක් මේක ඇතුලේ තියෙනවා. අපි කණ්ඩායමක් විදියට අපි ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරනවා කියලා කියන කාරණය ඔබතුමාට කියන්නට ඕනේ. අපි සූදානම් සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ විදිහට මේක ඇතුළට ඇවිල්ලා මේක රටේ ජනතාව වෙනුවෙන් ජයග්‍රහණ අත්පත් කරගන්න පුළුවන් ස්ථානයක් බවට පත් කරගන්න අපි සූදානම්.
මේ ජාතික සභාව කියන සංකල්පය මුලින්ම ඉදිරිපත් කළේ අපේ පක්ෂ එකමුතුවෙන්. අපි ඉදිරිපත් කරපු සංකල්පය තුල තිබුණේ පාලනයේ සියල්ල සාකච්ඡා කොට තීරණය කිරීම සඳහා තමයි මේ ජාතික සභාව කියන ක්‍රමවේදය ව්‍යුහය අපි යෝජනා කළේ. විශේෂයෙන්ම තනි පුද්ගලයෙක් විසින් සියලු තීරණ අරගන්නවා, අරගෙන ඒවා වරදිනවා, වැරදුනාම සියලු දෙනාට මේකේ බැට ගන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා. දැන් හිටපු ජනාධිපතිවරයාට සිද්ධ වුණේ ඒක. අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙච්ච ව්‍යුහය නොවුනත් මේ ඇති කරන ව්‍යුහෙන් යම්කිසි දැනට වඩා කිසියම් සහනයක්, කිසියම් ප්‍රගතිශීලී පැත්තට පෙළඹවීමක් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා උත්සාහ කරලා බලන්න. ඒ ගැන ප්‍රායෝගිකව ඒ ගැන උත්සාහ කරලා බලන්න අපි සූදානම්.
මේ ජාතික සභාව පිහිටුවීම සඳහා යෝජනාවක් ගෙනල්ලා තියෙනවා. ඒ සඳහා මගේ සහයෝගය මම මේ අවස්ථාවේ ලබා දෙන බව ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න කැමැතියි.
ජාතික සභාව සාර්ථක කරගන්නට එක පැත්තකින් මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ යෝජනාවකින් සම්මත වූ කෙටුම්පත් කරන ලද පනතකින් බලයක් දිය යුතු වෙනවා. අනිත් පැත්තෙන් දූෂණයෙන් වංචාවෙන් තොර පුද්ගලයන් ආණ්ඩුවේ සෑම තනතුරකටම පත්වීම ඉතාමත් අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා. ඒ කටයුතු සාර්ථක වුණොත් අපිට සහයෝගය දෙන්න පුළුවන්.
And we'll be back with more news after this short break.
අයිනෝ රයිනෝ පුතා හැබැයියා ගෙදර නිදියන්නෙම අමූතු තැනක.
කාලගුණය කොහොමුණත් රයිනෝ නං වහලට සේෆ් තමයි මුළු ගෙදරම. Rhino Cement Roofing Sheets. Then you know Rhino. I know.
Big 3.
Uber Eats මගින් ඉදිරිපත් කරන ආදරයෙන් අවශ්‍යතා ඇති අයට අත්‍යවශ්‍ය භාණ්ඩ පරිත්‍යාග කිරීමට වේදිකාවක්.
Welcome back. Now, Sri Lanka's earnings from tourism in the first 8 months of this year has increased to nearly $900 million compared to $63.5 million during the same period of last year. A total of 430,000 tourists visited Sri Lanka during this period, with the majority visiting from Europe and Asia.
During the first 8 months of 2022, Sri Lanka was able to earn $892.8 million, which is about 246 billion rupees in tourism, as reported by the central bank in its weekly economic indicators as at the 16th of September 2022. As per the report, during the first 8 months of this year, tourist arrivals were at 496,430, which was a 1,936.5% increase from 24,377 arrivals for the same period a year before. Earnings from tourism between January to August of this year stood at $892.8 million, which was also an improvement of 1,305.3% in comparison to the same period of the previous year. March recorded the highest tourism earnings during the first 8 months of this year, with 106,500 tourists bringing in $191.5 million. However, tourist arrivals dropped significantly after March this year due to the unfolding of the economic crisis and the unraveling of mass protests island-wide. Arrivals dropped by 43,520 to 62,980 from March to April, while further dropping by 32,773 to 30,207 from April to May. Arrivals, however, improved gradually by 2,649 in June to 32,856. Compared to the previous month, arrivals improved by 14,437 to 47,293 in July. It, however, fell back to 37,760 arrivals in August. According to the Sri Lankan Tourism Development Authority, the top 3 primary markets for the period spanning from January to August 2022 were India with 80,132 arrivals, followed by the UK with 65,655 arrivals and Russia with 49,747 arrivals. The top 3 potential markets for the same period were listed as Belgium with 4,783 arrivals, Norway with 4,736 arrivals and Austria with 4,107 arrivals.
Now, the High Commission of Pakistan facilitated a donation of life-saving drugs worth 10 million rupees to the country yesterday. The donation was handed over to Minister of Health Dr. Kalia Ramukwella by the High Commission of Pakistan in Sri Lanka and the business head of a regional private pharmaceutical company during an event at the Ministry of Health. Issuing a statement, the Pakistan High Commissioner stated that the gesture will support the government of the country to providing critical pharmaceutical drugs for kidney patients across the country. The medicine donated, namely Targraf, is an immunosuppressant which is critical for more than 400 patients, which makes up to 15 to 20% of the kidney transplant patients in Sri Lanka. The 4 students at the law faculty of the University of Peradeniya were hospitalized recently following a clash between 2 groups of students. The 4 students who were hospitalized were part of a group of 11 who stood up against ragging at the University of Peradeniya. A clash between 2 groups of students at the Faculty of Law at the University of Peradeniya recently left 4 students of the faculty hospitalized. The clash reportedly took place between 2 groups over the generational tradition of ragging, with one group for the tradition and another group opposing. A total of 11 students opposing ragging were assaulted by the other at one of the university's cafeterias. This was reportedly because the group of students carrying on the tradition of ragging had banned the group of students opposing the move from entering certain areas of the university, which included the university's cafeteria. However, the group of students against ragging had disregarded the ban and proceeded to have lunch on that day. With this being the case, the administration of the University of Peradeniya stated that they will suspend classes of 3 students of the Faculty of Arts in connection with the attack. The teaching staff of the university stated that in some cases, students who are against ragging are harassed during their stay at hostels. Ragging carried out at universities in Sri Lanka have ended in tragedies and or long-term scarring for students in the past. In a letter to the President, the chief prelates of the 3 Buddhist chapters today requested for a methodical and concessionary electricity tariff policy for places of religious worship. The chief prelates, informing about the severe difficulty faced by religious places of worship due to the new electricity tariff revision, state that it is regrettable that the concessional electricity tariff system that was given to religious places until now has been revoked. The letter further pointed out that an extremely difficult situation has arisen due to the new revision of electricity tariffs, which they say has been done by underestimating the social service provided by religious shrines and treating them at the level of factories, generating financial profit. Welcome back. Now, State Minister of Finance Ranjit Siambalapitiya says the government is studying the introduction of a new tax system on cigarettes and alcohol in a bid to collect more revenue to the government. Speaking in Parliament today, the State Minister said they will not be hesitant in imposing such taxes as government plans to increase the tax to GDP ratio to 15% from the current 8% level within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
මෙරට මධ්‍යසාර හා දුම්වැටි බදුකරණය පිළිබඳව ස්ථිර ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් නොමැතිවීම බදු ගණනය කිරීම වලදී සිදුවන දූෂණ මෙන්ම බදු ගෙවීමේදී දුම්වැටි හා මධ්‍යසාර නිෂ්පාදන ආයතන විසින් සිදු කරන ලබන අක්‍රමිකතා නිසා රජයට ලැබිය යුතු විශාල බදු ආදායමක් අහිමි වන බව පෙනී යනවා. ආදායම් ස්ථාවරත්වය අරමුණු කරගත් මත්ද්‍රව්‍ය දුම්වැටි හා මධ්‍යසාර පිළිබඳ ජාතික ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් අනුගමනය කිරීම කාලෝචිත වෙනවා. තවද සියලුම මධ්‍යසාරවල බදු නිසි නියාමනය යුතුව ඉහළ දැමීම සිදු කළ යුතු වෙනවා.
2021 වසරේ දුම්වැටි මගින් නිෂ්පාදන බදු හා එකතු කළ අගය මත බදු ආදායම රුපියල් බිලියන 98යි. 2021 වසරේ මත්පැන් මගින් සුරා බදු හා එකතු කළ අගය මත බදු ආදායම රුපියල් බිලියන 150යි. ඒ අනුව 2021 වසරේ සමස්ත බදු ආදායමෙන් 19%ක් දුම්වැටි සහ මධ්‍යසාර මගින් ලැබී ඇත. දුම්වැටි සඳහා නිෂ්පාදන බදු ඒකක පදනමින් දුම්වැටියේ දිග ප්‍රමාණය මත අය කරනු ලබයි. එමෙන්ම මධ්‍යසාර සඳහා සුරා බදු එහි සැර ප්‍රමාණය මත බදු අය කරයි. මෙම නිෂ්පාදන හා සුරා බදු වලට අමතරව අලෙවි මත 15%ක එකතු කළ අගය මත බද්දක්ද 2022 ඔක්තෝබර් 1 වෙනි දින සිට ක්‍රියාත්මක වන පරිදි පිරිවැටුම් මත 2.5% සමාජ ආරක්ෂණ දායකත්ව බද්දක්ද අය කරනු ඇත. ඊට අමතරව මෙම දුම්වැටි හා මධ්‍යසාර සඳහා 40%ක ඉහළම ආදායම් බදු අනුපාතයකට යටත් කර ඇත. දුම්වැටි හා මධ්‍යසාර මත නව බදු ක්‍රමයක් ඇති කිරීමට අවශ්‍ය කටයුතු පිළිබඳ විමර්ශනය කරමින් පවතී. වඩා සංකීර්ණ වූ මිල සූත්‍රයක් වෙනුවට සරල පැහැදිලි දර්ශකයක් මගින් නුදුරු අනාගතයේදී මේ අරමුණ ඉටු කිරීමට අපි සූදානම්.
ඔබතුමා කිව්වේ කීයද දුම්වැටි වලට දැන් තියෙන බදු ප්‍රතිශතය කිව්වේ ඔබතුමා 140යි කියලා. අපේ පෞගිය කාලේ අපේ රජය යටතේ අපි බදු ගැහුවා 90ක්. ඒක තමයි ලෝකයේ ගහපු විශාලම බද්ද. සිගරට් වල මිල වැඩි කළ වැඩක් නැහැ. සිගරට් වල බදු වැඩි කරන්නට.
මම 140ක් කියලා කිව්වේ මේ සියලු බදු වලින් පස්සේ ඒ සමාගමේ ආදායමෙන් අය කරන බද්ද. ඒක මේ රටේ හැටියට ඉහළ බද්දක්. නමුත් මේ එකක්වත් සාධාරණීකරණයක ඊට වඩා ගන්න අවශ්‍යයි. අපි පැහැදිලිව ඒ සඳහා කටයුතු කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. මොකද මේ රටේ දැන් මේ 100ට දලදේශීය නිෂ්පාදන සාපේක්ෂව 100%ක තියෙන බදු අනුපාතය 15%කටත් යන්න අපිට ලොකු උත්සාහයක් කරන්න වෙලා තියෙනවා ඉදිරි සතිය 2-3 තුල. මේ රටේ අලුත් සාමාන්‍ය පුරවැසියන්ගෙන් බදු ගෙවිය හැකි අයගෙන් විශාල ප්‍රමාණයක් අපිට උන් සමග මේ ගැන සාකච්ඡා කරන්න වෙනවා. ඉතින් එවැනි අවස්ථාවක මෙවැනි බදු අය කිරීමට අපි කිසිසේත්ම පැකිලෙන්නේ නැහැ.
Now, the Colombo stocks fell today for a 3rd consecutive session, dragged down on profit-taking, while foreign buying in market heavyweight Expo Lanka helped the bourse to see net foreign inflow of more than a 3-year high. The main all-share price index fell 1.24% to close at 9,901.13, sliding further away from its 5.5-month highest hit on Thursday. The more liquid S&P SL20 index ended 1% or 32.15 points rather, down at 3,185.59. The market saw a turnover of 6 billion rupees, twice this year's average turnover of 3.24 billion rupees. The bourse saw a net foreign inflow of 2.4 billion rupees, its highest since the 15th of July 2019. Sampath Bank dragged down the index, closing 3.8% down at 37.5 rupees a share. LOLC Holdings closed 3.3% down at 505.7 rupees, and Richard Peary's slipped 3.2% to 30.4 rupees a share. Now, oil prices steady today on concerns that further US interest rate hikes this week to tame inflation will curb economic growth and fuel demand. The Federal Reserve's Open Market Committee meeting began today with analysts predicting at least a 75 basis point hike in rates to be declared tomorrow.
Brent crude futures for November settlement fell 7 cents to $91.93 a barrel. US West Texas Intermediate crude for October delivery was at $85.6 a barrel, down 13 cents. The October contract will expire on Thursday, and the more active November contract was at $85.15, down 21 cents. The dollar remained firm below a two-decade high versus major peers, ahead of a slew of central bank meetings around the world this week led by the US Federal Reserve, which is likely to raise interest rates by another 75 basis points to rein in inflation. The stronger greenback makes dollar-denominated oil more expensive for buyers using other currencies, and the expected rate increases have increased concerns that the tightening could trigger a global recession. The U.S. Energy Department will sell up to 10 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve for delivery in November, extending the timing of a plan to sell 180 million barrels from the stockpile to tame fuel prices. Signs that major producers are unable to meet their output quotas did give prices some support. An internal document from the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and Allies led by Russia, known as OPEC Plus, showed the group fell short of its oil production targets by 3.583 million barrels per day in August. In July, the group missed its target by 2.892 million barrels per day. The impasse over revival of the Iran nuclear deal is also continuing to keep the country's exports from fully returning to the market.
Now, a powerful quake rocked Mexico's western coast yesterday, killing one person and causing panic in the country's capital. On the same day, the country marked the anniversaries of two devastating quakes which killed thousands of people. According to the US Geological Survey, a 7.6 magnitude powerful quake hit the coastal states of Mexico shortly 1 p.m. local time. The tremors originated at a depth of 15 kilometers. With that being the case, the US Pacific Tsunami Warning Center issued warnings for sections of Mexico's west coast, saying hazardous waves were possible within 300 kilometers of the quake's epicenter. According to officials, one person is known to have been killed so far, and a mandatory evacuation notice was issued in Mexico City after the quake. However, the quake came just an hour after the capital held emergency drills as part of events to mark the previous two disasters. In 1985, tremors with a magnitude of 8 on the Richter scale hit the capital, killing at least thousands of people and collapsing hundreds of buildings. And in 2017, some 370 people were killed in central Mexico after it was rocked by a 7.1 magnitude quake, which also saw more than 40 buildings collapse. Sri Lanka Cricket Executive Committee announced that it was mutually decided to terminate the contract with Sri Lanka's Director of Cricket, Tom Moody. The Executive Committee stated that Tom Moody's services are no longer required as he was directly reporting to the Technical Advisory Committee, which ceased to exist. Tom Moody's appointment as the Director of Cricket was made based on a recommendation by the Technical Advisory Committee of the SLC. SLC expressed their gratitude to Tom Moody for his contribution to the game of cricket in Sri Lanka during his tenure. Tom Moody meanwhile stated that it was a privilege to service Sri Lanka cricket again, and that he was proud of what he managed to achieve during the term with the guidance of the Technical Advisory Committee. And that's all we have for you this evening. Join us again tomorrow at the same time. Good night.